What do you like? Yeah, what do you think about that?
Oh man, that is a big question, because here's the way that I look at myself within the educational system. I almost look at myself in a similar position as a defense attorney in a lot of ways. So there's a system that exists. I'm not necessarily at the top trying to reconfigure the system, because it should be reconfigured, and there's a lot of things that should be optimized. I sort of come in and say, hey, this is the system, but I'm going to help you navigate it to the best of your ability. I'm going to help you shine as much as you can shine, and we're going to go from there. Now, if you, let's say, took me out of this role and placed me in a position where it's like, okay, now from a top-down level, I'm going to restructure some things. I mean, there's a lot that needs to be changed. But for example, I think the first question we need to ask is, what is the goal of education? Is it to assimilate you into society so you can be a productive member of society and add value? Is it to compare and contrast students to see who are better fit to complete this task, who are better fit to complete that task, etc.? And if that's the case, then maybe academics already does that, because we have a system where we're testing students continuously with standardized tests, with regular tests, and we can compare and contrast. Yeah. Okay, I think that probably we'd like to move closer to a society where school serves the former function, meaning it's really preparing you or allowing you to come in and really add value right out the gate. So what we have right now in the education system, and which is especially becoming apparent with AI growing so rapidly, is I think we have a lot of things that are outdated, math included. But math is not the biggest culprit. Math gets the majority of the blame, because people are like, well, when am I going to use this? Yeah, that's fair, but probably like, when are you going to use most of the stuff in terms of history, in terms of chemistry? Yeah. Now there's value, unless you're going to be a chemist, or unless you're going to be a doctor, maybe biology is relevant then, right? But if you're not, a lot of the value goes out the door. So what I think would make sense long term for the education system is maybe start to look back. Yes, some of the fundamentals for mathematics, just understanding the language of mathematics, being able to communicate with fractions and percentages and decimals and things like that, I still think are very important. Some of the higher level mathematics, unless you're going into mathematics or engineering, maybe those could eventually be stripped away to some degree, just like some of these other subjects. And maybe we could help to streamline, all right, you clearly are showing an interest in this, let's triple down on that subject and let's really let you flourish there. Now, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit because you mentioned AI.
Go for it.
But as AI comes in, the world is about to change so quickly, and I think a lot of people aren't even aware of how quickly it's going to change. Yeah. But I think a lot of roles and functionalities that people are currently being trained to perform and to do are going to be obsolete pretty soon, sooner than people think. And this is not just me totally speculating. I mean, I've done a fair amount of research this summer. I've read a lot of books talking about AI in the future. And again, I don't know for sure, but I do think eventually things are going to be reframed drastically. Yeah. Even my role working with kids may eventually be somewhat taken over by artificial intelligence, to what degree exactly, I don't know. But I think where the world is going to go once AI gets more and more integrated is perhaps more focus on human-to-human relationships, maybe emotional support, things like that, where we help society strengthen in those ways, and then maybe leave some of these more, I guess, computational tasks to AI.
Yeah, you definitely bounced around on that one, but it touched on a lot of things that I think is extremely important that people need to really not worry about, but at least seek the information to understand. I feel like people fear what they don't understand. I literally watched the whole 8-hour podcast on Neuralink the other day, and Neuralink fascinates me because working with the human body for so long, working with people physically, and also just over the years working with people that have had motor functions removed from them. People like I've worked with that have Parkinson's, for example, or people that have neurological disorders and they can't walk. And now you have technology that is literally machine learning the body, the brain. And this technology is soon going to be integrated into computers, and it's going to make people basically superhuman. And it sounds like sci-fi, but you said earlier that a lot of people downplay math, and it was until I started to really dive deep into computer science, and I was like, man, math is universal in every aspect. I had a professor one time, I was struggling with English, and he broke down to me how math and English is related, and how if you could do a math equation, you could write a great essay. And I just saw this correlation of like how math ties into every single thing, into medicine, into science, into art. And you know, we'll touch a little later on sacred geometry, kind of a more tying it into the AI conversation, which I think is a positive on it, is, you know, growing up in a neighborhood where, again, I didn't get the best education, but then we had the internet, and then we had things like YouTube, and you obviously have created such a great platform now. I think you have 100,000 subscribers on your YouTube platform, and you offer a lot of free tutoring services to kids. How do you think AI is going to add some positive effects to kids out there that might not have access to like private tutors and whatnot?
For sure. So it's sort of going to be an extension of what has already been achieved on YouTube. So for example, when I started the YouTube channel back in 2016, so 8 years ago, there was stuff out there, but I think it's improved drastically. Also, I think YouTube, part of their mission is they're trying to make YouTube to be more of a platform for educational content. So they've been encouraging that, and more content's been getting out there, and that's really leveled the playing field in amazing ways. And what it's allowed for is students in Bangladesh, in parts of Africa, that I get students from all these different parts of the world where they're very impoverished. Now they can just take their phone or a computer, whatever they have, or a tablet, get on and learn what otherwise would be impossible for them to learn, which is already amazing. Yeah. Now we bring in AI into the mix. So if you see what Sal Khan is building at Khan Academy, is literally an AI tutor, Khan Amigo, where here's the thing. Good tutoring is not just giving a good explanation. Actually, the best tutors are most skilled in asking questions. So it's kind of like the Socratic method, which is employed in law school, which is, that's how most law classes are taught. They'll ask you a question, you answer, and then they'll ask another question to direct you into another direction. Math tutoring is the same way. So if we take an equation and somebody is not sure what to do, so what do you think? Where do you think we should start? I think we should do this. Why do you think that? Okay, but aren't the order of operations supposed to go another way? Oh yeah, so does that change what you think? Yeah, I guess I would do it this way. Yeah, exactly. Probing and directing via questions, so that you let them do the maximum amount of work on their own helps them retain the maximum amount of information possible. Khan Amigo is being trained right now because Sal Khan knows that that's what's emblematic of a really high-level tutor, and he's now training Khan Amigo to ask questions and
this is an AI.
This is an AI tutor bot. So obviously, like it's still not at the point yet where it's as good as a really good human tutor, but it's still an amazing jump from what existed before, because nothing really like that existed before. It was more just solutions or videos like we have now. It's almost an interactive source that's guiding you with questions. So as this technology continues to develop, and I'm fully aware that this is going to eventually encroach on my business and on my field, but that's the way of the world,
It's interesting because, I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I see all of this stuff, right? You're looking at your business, you're looking at you're studying AI, you're looking at the what's out there. I'm looking at my field, and I'm going, man, what's like education going to be like for her when she gets older? And so what are your thoughts around that? Like what would be something that you would probably, or let me phrase it like this. If you're to the parents out there and they're thinking about their kids and the SAT, for example, getting them ready for SAT, what do you think what that's gonna look like for them in the next 5 years?
That is a really tough question because 5 years, I think 5 years, a lot's gonna change in 5 years. Not everybody agrees with me on this front. I've been in a lot of mastermind groups where we've talked about AI, and I feel like the changes that will result from AI are going to happen much more rapidly than people. I think most people think. So 5 years. My guess is that, again, going back to that idea, I think when a lot of these menial tasks and computational tasks are slowly going to be consumed or taken over by AI, because just AI is going to be able to do a lot of things better than us. I mean, I think the field of law is going to be largely taken over by AI. The document review, the drafting of documents, of briefs, etc. I think medicine, I think even surgery eventually is going to be taken over by AI. I just think it's going to do a phenomenal job of both diagnosing as well as operating, etc. So I think we're going to run into an issue where we're going to be wondering, wait a minute, what do we, humanity, what do we do now to make money, to provide value, to add value? So I think that's what it's going to be. That's the question, is how are we going to are we going to be able to add value? I think we will be able to. And then how are we going to be able to add value in an AI future? And once again, I think it's going to go back to relationships and to really being emotionally intelligent. You know, you mentioned that book before. So, which leads me back to the question of what's going to, you know, is knowledge of math and English and being able to put together these rules going to be of paramount importance 5 or 10 years from now? It could be. Yeah. But I could definitely see a world where those things go to the wayside, and now we start focusing on, like, how do we just take care of each other as people? How do we be kind to each other? You know, think about this real quick before I know you probably want to go to a next question.
No, go ahead, go for it.
But think about this. We talk about social media, right? You're getting onto social media now. I've been on it for a while. And if you listen to a lot of people that go onto social media, actors, athletes, whatever, they'll often talk about how dark of a place it is, how social media is a terrible place, it's not real. People say crazy stuff on Twitter and all that. So social media is like a negative place. Well, wait a minute. What is social media? That's just a platform for us to connect with each other.
Yes, it is.
So social media at its core is a beautiful thing. Why is it dark? It's dark because we're dark.
Yes.
Our society is dark. We're not taking care of each other. We're being mean to each other. We're ridiculing each other. We're trying to pull each other down to lift ourselves up, I guess. I don't know what the purpose of all of this is, but there's so much negativity, and I think that maybe we can start to take a look at ourselves and look in the mirror and say, why am I posting these negative comments? Why am I spewing out negativity? And maybe we can reevaluate and start to focus on that. And maybe this could be the beginning of a beautiful, beautiful new world.
I agree. I mean, I'm gonna jump into these next few questions because it ties into what I wanted to ask towards the end, but I'll just jump into it now. You know, so connecting the dots, I wanted to start this podcast because working with so many different people over the years, I realized, like, human beings are like, we're all interconnected, right? It's as if, like, we're, you know, when you look at neuroplasticity, for example, neuroplasticity happens when neurons are firing together and connecting, making new connections. You make that happen every time you help a student learn and solve a new problem, right? Literally, neurons are firing in their brain. The way I look at human connection, when we're having this conversation, when somebody else watches it, and they're getting something out of it, that's like we're like one big brain, and we're each like these neurons that are like firing, right? And this is happening on a very one-on-one level, but then on a mass scale, right? You see this with everything. You see this with entertainment, you see this with politics, you see this with sports. Connections can either happen, come together, or they can die, right? And so there's this build and destroy concept of, like, how I generally look at the universe, where the universe will build something, but simultaneously it has to destroy something. So when I look at AI, for example, where it's going to basically automate all of the thinking, and hopefully we can get back to a place where we start caring more, right? We can now, if, for example, I get access to information that I didn't have access before, maybe I can use that for good and help people and find a cure for cancer, or use this for this. And, you know, like, the fact that I'm doing this podcast is because of AI, right? Like, it automates a lot of the stuff that before I didn't have access to, and that's a good thing. But then, obviously, human nature, we can use things for bad. So I sum all that up because I want to tie it into a deeper conversation on something that I've researched and studied in the past, which is sacred geometry. Okay. Which is, to me, is a very interesting thing, because when I started to look into sacred geometry, and then I started to study computer science, and you really understand, like, man, math is interrelated into every single thing in the universe.